All right, perfect. Well, welcome everyone to our yet another lunch webinar. So hopefully you got your lunch, your salads ready to go, and your protein shakes. We're going to spend the next 55-ish minutes on some of the summer-ready weight loss hacks, and also introducing or at least reintroducing the idea of a cleanse, and specifically a little bit on Prolong. So today, again, I'm Dr. Amy Lee. I am the Chief Medical Officer for LWI, also known as Lindora, weight loss clinic here in Southern California. I am here today with Colleen Lewis, which is the CEO of this company. We like to keep it casual, keep it like a conversation, if anything, during these lunch hour webinars, to truly just keep it kind of like lighthearted and not so much me lecturing at you. And also the slides that I am presenting today are just straight bullet point things that could help you trigger some of the thought process along the way with the whole idea of what to do for the summertime. Now, truly, I'm not a believer of doing something for 3 months at a time. You really should be doing this for the whole year. But sometimes it's just for some reason, the summer months make us think about our naked bodies. True, Colleen?
100% true.
And so we get a lot of engagement. We get a bump in our business just because people are like, oh my gosh, I'm more aware because I have to whip out my swimsuit for my vacation that I just planned out. And now it's making me think about things that I should be doing. So with anything, I'm going to present today, and I welcome Colleen in chiming in because Colleen is kind of like the queen of dieting for our company. She has tried every program, every regimen, every medication, and every supplement in our company and our ecosystem. And truly, she is a great testimonial when it comes to the try and true with everything that we offer. So, but I'm going to start off with our agenda, just so you know what we're going to be talking about. Hyper-focus, 2 items. Types of diets out there and types of cleanse that you will be bombarded with when you Google diet and cleanse. If you are interested in trying something for this summer, for these summer months, I hope this webinar can at least help you think about where to go and how to start this journey. But truly, I am not presenting on the magic pill or the magic diet, meaning like, hey, do it for the 10 weeks and be done with. We're not curing the condition. If anything, these are just some fun hacks that you can initiate and start for the summer months, and perhaps something you can sustain into the rest of the year. Because truly, in human psychology, it truly does take a year for us to form habits. And I'm talking about any habits, even if taking a walk as your daily kind of ritual, to changing the way you eat, or even truly just implementing some new hobby, for example. You do really have to carry it through for a solid year or 365 days for your mental state to acclimate and make that actual change. But before I jump into all the nitty gritty, I want to put a definition on diet. And there are actually, if you did Google the definition of diet or diets, there are many definitions that go along with it. But the diet that we're talking about in weight loss and in this industry of nutrition really comes down to a regimen that we decide to change with ourselves to either restrict some caloric intake or change the way we eat macros and micros with for the given expectation of some kind of result. And these results could be, curing a condition or purely look better. And it comes down to your definition of what a diet means. We also are dealing, or at least in our nutrition industry, we're dealing with a lot of negativity or perception on the word diet, because when you say, oh, I'm on a diet, oftentimes people think, oh, you must not be happy with yourself in current state, and this is why you want to make changes. But when in reality, I can be on a different diet every day if I decide to do so. And so I really want people to embrace the word with no negativity and just approach it as mean, hey, I'm going to embrace it and truly learn how to incorporate some of the key elements from today's talk in making my own diet. So at least I'm reporting a little CDC report here. This is a CDC report that looked into the years of 2013 to 2016 on how many US American adults had tried some kind of diet one way or another, or one time or other. And this is very old, if anything. I mean, back in 2016, that's what, 10 years ago almost. The fact is we have like over 50% of the US American adults that have reported to have tried something when it comes to dieting. So I'm only telling you this because it's the norm. It's not a uncommon phenomenon that one of us, even myself and Colleen, we have tried many different types of diets. And so embrace it. People have done it. And if anything, don't be shy about it. Now, I'm going to start off with some categories, and this is more of obesity medicine guidelines. I practice what I practice on a daily, and when I see all these new brands that pop up left and right, online, in person, brick and mortar, the fact is, to me, I put these diet programs and companies into categories. What are they trying to service? What are they trying to offer us, the consumers? And it gets really confusing. If you did Google, hey, many different diets out in this industry or in this space, you're going to get over 30 to 40 names. But guess what? They all kind of get dumped into one of these three categories. So if you know that, you can now help yourself kind of figure out, all right, how aggressive do I really want to go when it comes to starting something, some kind of diet for myself starting next week? This is a way to organize your brain, tell you the truth. Number one, when we talk about very low calorie diets or VLCD, this is when you are eating anything under 1,000 calories. Okay. So by definition, in our business, if I implement this service offering in a company, for example, Lindora, who I work for, basically you have to be medically monitored, because we know that once you take in too little of calories per day, you will get yourself or you would experience a potential risk of adverse reaction or side effects of what we call rapid weight loss. And in those cases, this is why some regimen does require higher level of monitoring. So VLCD, or very low calorie diet, is definitely one of those categories that you should kind of be mindful about. If you sign up for a program where they're like, hey, you are going to be eating about 900 calories a day, then you better be monitored by a registered dietitian or a medical provider, like a nurse practitioner or a physician. Otherwise, you will find yourself with side effects and have potentially negative impact for yourself. Number two category here would be your low calorie diets, or LCDs. And the caloric intake hovers between 1,100 to 1,500 calories per day. You don't have to be medically monitored in these settings, because truly you're probably losing about half a pound to a pound and a half per week. And you're not going to be at risk for developing some of the potential side effects of rapid weight loss. And the likelihood of it is very low. And then, of course, we have the modified low-calorie diet, which is basically 1,200 to 500 calories per day. This is classically the plans where they tell you to skip a meal or skip a snack, where you keep a deficit of about 500 calories per day, to truly just benefit from the fact that it adds up if you cut out something that's in the range of 300 to 500 calories daily, which is equivalent to a pound a week at most. So again, adverse reaction for that is pretty low. So therefore you don't have to be medically monitored. So even like a nutritionist or a life coach could implement this, or even your personal trainer at the gym. This is where it's safe to keep you at without having to do blood work and making sure you get hydration and vitamins and supplements. So now you have the three categories. You're now the pro of the diet industry. This is how we think when we kind of place ourselves in where we want to play. This is the playground that we play in. Now at Lindora, where I work, obviously the company that I am the chief medical officer for, we play in a very low calorie diet regimen. Why? Because we're all doctors, we're all high level, we are capable of implementing high level service offering. And this helps us deviate from the rest of the competition. But otherwise, some people just can't tolerate a very low calorie diet and they don't prefer it. So they find themselves in somewhere between 1,200 calories a day regimen. Now, to give you a little bit more color to that slide, here are some of the buzzwords or names that you would find on Google if you search diets. Very generic stuff that you see: South Beach, raw, HCG diet, that's considered a very low calorie diet. Ketogenic diet also can be a very low calorie diet. It kind of hovers between modified low calorie to very low calorie. Detox cleanse are typically in the low calorie because the idea is to implement the idea of fasting or intermittent fasting, for example, to keep a caloric intake really low. But you heard other things like paleo and caveman. So depending on what you're really looking for and what fits your lifestyle, first thing first is know your category. Second, look into the brand that you heard about or seen and dig a little bit deeper on specifically what the regimen entails. And that usually is you found within their description online, or you can simply call the company to ask them what they do. And typically they should know what, caloric intake wise and what macros that they are utilizing to implement that specific diet program for you. Any questions so far? Colleen, any comments? I feel like Colleen has probably tried a few of these things before.
I feel like I've tried them all in my life. But I will tell you, I'm having the most success changing my behaviors and my lifestyle since I joined Lindora about a year and a half ago. So I just want to give a shout out. Welcome to everybody. And if you have any questions or comments you want to make along the way, just add them right into our chat.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And let's get into what's current and what's hot. I really like this fire emoji. It's so cute. Found it yesterday. Decided to use it. But what is hot? What's current? There's a lot of noise out in the space. You like I said, I just showed you, some of the most common name brands. But at the end of the day, it's almost like, all right, what should I be doing? And I would say, not that I'm biased, but really in the 18 years of my practice in nutrition medicine, I've seen many different regimens. I've seen a lot of successes with those with their testimonials. But at the end of the day, for me, biochemical and physiological reasons of why I pick protein or high lean protein as the regimen makes total sense for me, and here's why. Protein replacement or use of proteins in general. Now think about this. How many food groups do we really eat in a day? When we talk about macronutrients on a daily basis, these are the three main macros that we eat on a daily basis: fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. But if you dug deep and actually read into the studies, if you actually have all the time in the world like I did, you would then understand that our bodies actually metabolize different macronutrients very differently. And we also know from metabolic studies that our body actually increase the way it burns calories by specific foods and supplements on a daily basis. So for example, if you compare side by side of these three food groups and you gave me the exact same caloric intake of these three food groups, meaning for proteins, you can feed me all the chicken breasts you want. And then for complex carbs, you can feed me all the broccoli that you want, as well as the fats, you can give me all the good fats. And if they all are in equal caloric density, and I fed myself these three food groups separately, but then I actually measure the energy that I put out from eating the same amount or same caloric intake of these three food groups. What I will tell you with confidence and from clinical research is that protein will always win when it comes to helping our body rev up our metabolism. Because when we eat proteins at the same caloric intake density amount compared to other food groups, we actually put out much more higher energy, number one. It also raises our basal temperature of our bodies because it's causing our bodies to work, to metabolize. It's causing us to actually break down efficiently the fuel that we eat into actually creation of energy. And this is by definition metabolism versus carbohydrates, not so much. And fat is actually second up right under proteins as well. So it is super important to understand which food groups to really focus on when we are thinking about utilizing a regimen that helps us burn calories or at least maintain our metabolism. So protein has always been the super macronutrient when it comes to diets. And this is why when you look around at people selling things or at GNC or at Costco and whatnot, when there is a diet corner or a product line for diets, and weight management, there are always food items and supplements that relates to amino acids and proteins. So of course, in our business, we use proteins at all different levels. You can get proteins in a capsule form from amino acids. You can get it from an injectable. You can get it in meal replacements, as well as whole foods and prepped home cooked meals as well. So this is important. This is an aspect of nutrition, a very simple idea that you must understand. You got to eat the food group that helps you burn calories, and protein definitely wins on this one. Now, here on this slide, I'm just giving you some big subjects or big words on what proteins are. You know, there's a lot of different ways to talk about proteins. We have protein replacement, which in the nutrition industry, it basically means protein bars, protein shakes, protein snacks. Okay, and you can find all different variations now online as well. But people do leverage and use protein replacement as a way to incorporate a lot of proteins without having to eat a lot of food or without the requirement of prepping food. So it's a great tool. I'm a big fan of protein bars and shakes because oftentimes this is what career people like myself and with Colleen, that's what we do. And you know, the luxury of having a company incorporate and we have shelves of these protein items for free also makes it really nice as well. But it's great for people that are super busy. And also, the second item here on the slide is protein whole foods, meaning just whole foods that are all considered whole proteins. You know, the easy way to get whole proteins in are just quick and easy things. Like in my lifestyle, I like the eggs. Eggs every morning. I even go to the gas station sometimes and buy those hard-boiled eggs, which some people would judge me by. But, you know, sometimes you just need something, right? And so those are like quick grab and go. And so no different. We eat a lot of proteins in corporate here, and I see that a lot of my colleagues as well are kind of changing their eating style because of where they work. They understand the idea of proteins. But the great thing is there are a lot of ready home prep meals nowadays, the ones that they send to your home and all ready to go. You just peel the top layer off, put it in the microwave, and basically this is your highly in protein regimen that you could use to keep up with your protein regimen. Ketogenic diet is another way of eating. It's a regimen. So ketogenic diets, and there's a lot of information out there. I think 30 years ago, people focus on the idea of ketogenic as if you have to eat sticks of butter and slabs of bacon all day, every day to reach ketosis in this regimen. When in reality, the art of finding a real good ketogenic variation of a diet program is finding a program that actually allows you to mimic the process and outcome of ketosis, which is fat burn, by not eating so much of that highly fat foods. So there are many different variations of what we call a ketogenic diet. And in the industry, there's actually 5 different variations. We practice a high lean protein, low net carb variation of a ketogenic diet, meaning when we put our clients on a specific variation of a ketogenic diet, they actually create ketones from fat burn. And we know this because we measure it. And so don't be confused at, you know, the idea that, oh, if they call themselves a ketogenic diet regimen, they must be eating a lot of butter and red meat. And in reality, it's not true. So make sure you do your study when you go do your research online on the different variation of it. I put down some of the references on how much clinical trials and information is out there when it comes to high lean protein regimens and low net carb diets. Lots of science behind it. If you feel like you have time today to comb through some of the trials, go ahead and look for it, but otherwise they're everywhere, which is great. It just means that there's a lot of information out there for that. If anything, I put some brand names for you to kind of, you know, look at and also, you know, to troll online if you want to see like what's legit, what's out there. These are some of the big brand names when it comes to protein replacement, whole foods. We actually leverage a company called Trifecta, which is a home ready home cooked meal program for our clients who really don't want to eat processed foods or meal replacements, but yet also hate cooking. So you and I fall within that little range right in the middle where if it was put in front of me, I'll eat it, but I also don't prefer eating a protein bar for dinner, right? And so you want to look into these meal prep plan that focuses on diets and ketogenic or high lean protein regimens. Trifecta, I know Bistro MD also, and Factor 75. So definitely there's a lot of options out there. So take a look at that. Now with ketogenic, there's some buzzwords would be like Atkins, but Atkins came about really with the idea of high fat, high everything, right? But in these many 20 to 30 years in the past, Atkins had also evolved, and now they have different variations as well within their program, which is awesome. And then, of course, Lindora, which is our kind of 30 clinics, brick and mortar in Southern California. We have been in business for over 50 years. That's all we do, a variation of a ketogenic diet plus vitamin injectables and appetite suppressants and medications. So we kind of are the leader in this region in Southern California. So if you're nearby and you live nearby, look us up. Now, the key to success really comes down to the idea of proteins. And I already spent a couple slides on and kind of nitty-gritty on protein itself. But to give you kind of the big picture, what does it mean when you eat proteins and why is it so important? Now, protein foods, if it's either meal replacements or whole foods or just simple like eggs, what we are doing is we're basically eating the proteins in this whole protein form. And then in our bodies, we then break it down into what we call monomers or the single amino acids. The amino acids itself is super important. There are 20 in total in nutrition or in nutrition science. So of the 20 amino acids, 9 of which are considered what we call essential, meaning you have to eat it from something. Your body is not capable of making those 9 essential. So if you're the type of person who doesn't eat proteins consistently or just have an aversion to animal proteins, for example, you may be deficient in some of the essential amino acids, which can cause some of the clinical symptoms of fatigue, just chronic like pain, for example. It changes your mood. And so some things to think about is before you even approach changing your diet altogether, understand that the types of proteins you eat or you choose to eat and incorporate into your diet is super important. As I mentioned before, protein as a macronutrient is what we call thermogenic foods. So it does have the capability to burn calories for you compared to the other food groups. And also it boosts your metabolism. So it tells your body to maintain muscle mass and also help you with muscle growth if you were doing resistant training to really optimize the way our body actually utilizes muscle fibers. These are key to weight loss and weight loss maintenance. And of course, ketosis, another buzzword in dieting is that, hey, look, ketosis is a very generic word. No one owns the right or patented the word itself. Ketosis literally means fat burn. That's all it means. And we can actually measure that in our business, and you can measure that in real world nutrition science and also dieting. You can measure ketosis by your urine, by your breath, as well as from your blood. In our business, we do a urine test, a quick and easy strip that you pee on, and then the nurses would then look at the color change and document that you are now in ketosis or you're not in ketosis. And depending on if you're positive or negative, we are now able to switch and pivot our conversation and our education point on how to get you into ketosis. So these are very important. These are all objective tools that people use to truly define if you're in fat burn state or not in fat burn state. And it also helps with compliance. Our clients love it because it's a quick tool to really kind of confirm where you're at with your diet program. All right, I'm going to spend this next slide on metabolism, super important. Metabolism itself is related to your muscle mass. The more muscles you have, the more calories you burn. And that's the whole goal of muscle mass and muscle fiber. Its whole job is to burn calories for you and make sure that you can sustain on a daily basis, or even simply sitting upright and having the energy to give a talk. It all comes down to your metabolism. I teach this equation with all my nurses and all my medical nutritionists here in Lindora, because if you don't understand metabolism and you don't believe in it, you really shouldn't be in the diet business. But if you understand it, you can literally kind of imagine your body as the motor that operates off this very equation. Every day, as long as we're breathing, as long as we're respirating, we are going through metabolism. So I do have clients that often tell me that they don't have a metabolism, and this is why weight loss is so difficult. I have to tell them or correct them, well, if you don't have a metabolism, you would be dead. So that was my education point to some of my clients. But if you understand it, this will make a lot more sense for you when you sign on to a program when it comes to weight management. Now, total metabolism means the total calories that you burn on a daily basis. So the moment, I mean, as long as you're breathing, you're metabolizing. So the question is, what is your total metabolism? And it's different for everybody. You know, it's not one number that is that relates to man or woman. It's different when you, if I lined up 100 people and actually measure someone's like total metabolism, it's all different numbers. So total metabolism is also equal the makeup of basal metabolism plus the acquired metabolism. And as you can see, your basal metabolism makes up 70% of that 100%, whereas 30% is what we call acquired. Super important to remember this because what you do on a daily basis could change this ratio back and forth. You could actually optimize your 70% and not touch your 30% and still be losing weight. But you'll get to that point in your life where you're like, you know, why am I not maximizing my last 30% as well? So let me tell you a little bit about basal metabolism. To begin with, basal metabolism is what you're made up of. So you can blame mom and dad for partly why you're gaining weight, you know, because partly is from your genetics. The DNA that you get from mom and dad puts you at risk for obesity or overweightness. For example, if you have one parent that is overweight or obese, then the likelihood of you being overweight and obese is about 25%. But if mom and dad are both overweight or obese, your risk goes up 50%. So you can always blame mom and dad. But you get to the point where you can't blame mom and dad because they're normal weight and they're healthy, but yet you're overweight. So now what? Other things that contributes to your basal metabolism comes down to your status quo, what you're like born with, basically. You have so many pounds of muscle mass, and then of course basal metabolism also relates to your overall lifestyle and the foods that you eat, for example. So I talked about thermogenic foods like proteins, as well as supplements that actually helps you bump up your metabolism. For example, I'm sure in this audience, you guys have probably heard of something called chili pepper that helps, or cayenne pepper that helps with increasing your metabolism. And that is true. Even the little cayenne pepper that you put on your food, if you ate 3 pounds of it at a time, you could probably burn a little bit more calories per day. But who here actually eats more than 3 or 4 peppers at a time in one sitting? None of us. So therefore, it's unrealistic. The great thing is there are companies out there that actually are capable of isolating the active ingredients of chili pepper and then concentrate it into little capsules. We actually work with a really nice company called Ajinomoto here at Lindora, and we actually partnered up with them, and we have been selling one of their top chili pepper supplement, and it's named Capsulin in our business. But the active ingredient is called dihydrocapsiate. So Google that. Look at all the clinical data that goes along with that active ingredient. And the fact is, dihydrocapsiate is actually a sweet chili pepper ingredient derived from a novelty Thai chili, where they were able to isolate that molecule, concentrate it, and in one little capsule, or at least what we're selling, one little capsule is equivalent to 1,000 peppers. This is their claim, and I do believe it. And the fact is, all the clinical trials does help point us to their information of how it actually works. I ran a clinical trial many years ago at UCLA that happened to study this very active ingredient, but it was double-blinded, so I wasn't aware who made it and what I was working with. All I did was put a bunch of people on this chili pepper capsule and on a high lean protein liquid diet. And what I found, and it's a very simple clinical trial and also very interesting. What I found was when people are on a protein regimen and they are going through a rapid weight loss, meaning losing more than 2 pounds per week, they end up losing more muscles than fat if they don't do it right, okay? So meaning it's more than just drinking protein shakes. It's about drinking protein shakes at what time, how frequent, are you matching your muscle mass, and of course, resistant training. If you're only drinking protein shakes and nothing else, then you likely will lose a little bit more muscle mass. But we're okay with that because what we're trying to prove was by taking this chili pepper capsule, you're able to mitigate the potential adverse reaction of rapid weight loss by doing nothing special, nothing extra. So what we did found was when you are taking the high dose of chili pepper capsule while you're on a liquid protein regimen and losing a lot of weight, it could protect the way your body conserve the muscle mass, one. And two, it tells your body to burn more fat and not muscles. And three, it decreases inflammation. So, which is pretty awesome because these are the three things that go along with the condition of being overweight and or obese. So super important to think about that. And what are some of the supplements that I can eat with the proteins to really optimize my weight loss? And of course, basal metabolism is also your what we call foundation activity level. There's not exercise. This is just your daily activities like, walking to the mailbox or getting up and vacuuming or doing laundry. All those little steps that you incorporate throughout your day feeds into the basal metabolism of the 70%. So let's talk about 30%. 30% is probably, most of us, we don't like the 30%. And I am also that person. As much as I teach people to go to the gym, I myself is a victim of not going to the gym. Why? Because my life, I'm busy. I'm a mom. I work full time, and I got all kinds of excuses. But the fact is, if you want to optimize your 30%, you need to be doing something that is consistent and what we call exercise. And exercise means you have to get your heart rate up. You got to break out in at least a light sweat, if anything. And it could be anything, it could be a jog around the block. It could be riding your bike, or nowadays, the electric bikes, which again, by the way, people actually are getting a better workout with an electric bike than a manual bike. And studies have shown that people on an electric bike actually go farther and actually spend more time on the bike overall. So it's actually great. It contributes to a lot of great things when it comes to the electric bike versus manual. Other things would be like doing Pilates, doing yoga consistently, or doing, personal training and resistance training or CrossFit, whatever your regimen is. It feeds into this 30%. Also, if you want to put some numbers to this 30%, we're also talking about 150 to 250 minutes per week of moderate level exercise where you break out in a sweat. So it's something to think about. But of course, if you want to truly focus on 70% and not 30, and you want to ignore this 30% for a while, you can still lose weight, but you're operating at your 70% potential. So now that you understand metabolism, you can literally open a nutrition clinic with Colleen and I, because this is what our whole business is about: proteins, metabolism, and body composition. So let's talk a little bit about cleanse, and that's really the kind of main topic for today. Cleanse is it's unique because we don't use cleanse to lose weight, but when you go on a cleanse, you will lose weight. But I also want you to be aware that a lot of cleanse regimen does not have like adequate nutrients. It's very short term. It's usually 5 to 7 days, and you really never see a true cleanse for more than 10 days. And here's why. There has been trials in the past where we looked at nursing home clients or nursing home patients who are bed bound. They're stuck in bed because of some medical condition. And we know that they start losing muscle mass at day 7 of their hospitalization, which is really scary because these are people that usually are in the hospital for weeks and months at a time. So as early as their 7th day, we can actually objectively measure muscle loss. And so in those kind of studies, this is like nursing home studies, and it's important because what we end up doing in a nursing home is actually causing more harm than good when we keep these elderly in bed. But for people like ourselves, where we're active and we can do something about our activity level, it is important to know, because truly, I don't want to subject myself to a lot of muscle loss, because muscle loss equals death to my metabolism, also equals to decrease in strength and performance, and also balance. So these are things to think about. So super important to really pick a cleanse kit or a cleanse regimen that actually makes sense and not end up causing more harm than good. These are some of the normal brands. If you actually Google, hey, cleanse, liquid cleanse, Press Juicery would come up. And have I tried it before? Yes, absolutely. As much as I kind of hate being on liquids, but it's kind of a fun concept. You be on liquids for 5 days. If anything, you feel better. You do feel better, but it's not realistic. But of course, the result is people do end up losing a little bit of weight. But here's what I like to at least recommend or show you or educate you on, which is there are many cleanse kits out in the world. And it gets really complicated and it gets really confusing because everything kind of sounds the same. But guess what? They're expensive. They're all really expensive. What we do carry at Lindora, and we decided to partner with Prolon months ago when Colleen started with the company, because she's a true believer of what we call metabolic health. Not that I wasn't a true believer, it's just that I lived in that space for so many years. It wasn't a new buzzword for me. But with Colleen, because she's a kind of like consumer and she tried every service and every supplement in our business, she's like, why aren't we even focusing on metabolic health? So literally after a few days of brainstorming, we decided, all right, this is what we're going to do. And Colleen, you want to add anything to our kind of like, revival of this term and how we're bringing on the idea of metabolic health to Lindora? I think the audience would appreciate that.
Yeah, sure. And for the people on the call and on the webinar, I'm not a medical doctor, so I have the benefit of Amy's expertise. But for me, I'm purely a consumer and a business leader. And the focus on metabolic health is really important to me because that's really what allows us to live longer and healthier lives. And I would actually reverse that. I would say live healthier and longer lives. The more metabolic healthy we are, it is proven that you will have longevity, you will have vitality in those years ahead. And that was important to me personally. It was important to me for my family. And it was important to me that as an organization, we're doing everything we can to help our clients have that longevity, be vital during those years. And what we do today will influence 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now. And this whole concept of cellular rejuvenation, which the team at Prolon has a ton of clinical study around, was what really made me focused on Prolon as a great partner for us, because the cellular rejuvenation is measurable and it actually improves your metabolic age when you do one of these 5-day cleanses or 5-day fasts. So that's what was really important to me.
Yep. Thank you for that. And it's only 5 days, and so it's very doable in that sense. And I think people actually do like the 5-day aspect because it leaves their Saturday and Sunday alone so they can do what they need to do. And then I think you would agree with me that a lot of dieters out there, we are hyper focused during the work week because we're in the office. We're just doing everything kind of like a robot in front of our computers. And so doing a fast or a cleanse also is way more doable compared to the weekends. So 5 days is a nice number for us. It works at least with our clients and patient population. Now, I also want to talk a little bit about what's inside and what's inside these boxes. This picture here obviously is not reflective of the actual 5-day cleanse. It just cracked me up that they're like, wow, you got lemons and fruits and things. But the foods that they actually created have all the ingredients that is derived from fresh fruits and vegetables. It's a vegetarian, plant-based 5-day reset program. And so there's really no animal proteins in it at all whatsoever. So that in itself kind of just sets the bar for cleanse. Another thing that you want to look at is looking at the macros and micros. Now, the combination of all these foods on a daily basis, and it's set up where morning you eat this, lunch you eat this, and then dinner you eat this. So these are just little bits of food nutrients that you're allowing yourself to eat, but yet it mimics what we call fasting state. Of course, I can also tell you to just drink water all day and you're truly in fasting state. But the fact is there is a social aspect to eating and spending time with people and family and work, for example. So this is why this is psychologically more compatible to current day life. Versus the all liquid aspect. Also, if you look at some of the foods that are provided, basically they're strategically and curated to provide you with good fatty acids, good phytochemicals, which are ingredients derived from plant products and fruit products, high vitamins and whatnot, to really provide the body at least a minimal fuel so you can sustain and not get into the adverse reaction of tired and feeling kind of bogged down. So this is really the key element on why this 5-day regimen works for this long, for this very long period of time, because they've been out in the marketplace for many years. And I know that some of the head medical directors that actually did clinical trials at USC, who happened to be one of my colleagues in the past. And these people are super passionate about formulating and making sure that these 5 days really do provide all the health benefits that they have promised. So now what is the whole indicated use of it? How does that fit in my life? Let's just say I am going to sign up with the Lindora 10-week weight loss program, but how does that even fit into the whole dietary regimen? Because this is only 5 days. Now, our clients have been using it for months now, and we get feedback from our existing kind of research pilot group. And what we learn from these folks are, look, we use these 5 days as a really mental transition to jump into our 10-week program. Because if you can do 5 days of anything, you can probably do 10 more weeks of anything. And so that in itself is just a very easy way of saying, we're inducing you into the induction phase at Lindora. It helps you kind of reset your mindset. Just 5 days of changing behavior and accepting that there may be something, a new regimen that you're signing on. That really is the number one piece of why people use it. And two, when you do use it and you complete those 5 days, you are getting the benefit of the added weight loss, which is great. I did this several years ago, and I think I lost an intentional 8 to 9 pounds just from being on 5 days of fast. Now, granted, the initial weight loss with any regimen usually comes down to water weight. But to me, that's pretty shocking. I was holding on 8 to 9 pounds of water weight. And why is that? There are many reasons why people hold on water weight. And unfortunately, a lot of people mix that water weight up with fat weight, and all of a sudden they're just chasing their tail because they lose 5 pounds and they gain 5 pounds. They lose 5 pounds and gain 5 pounds. So something to really remember is that the initial weight loss and initial weight gain, a lot of times when it comes to difference in eating behavior, is a movement of water. A third thing that it does, and why I really am a big fan of this 5-day kit, is the fact that Colleen talked about this, cellular metabolism, cellular rejuvenation. What does that even mean? The fact is, every cell in our body has a shelf life. And when it's there long enough, it'll recycle itself, it'll die off, and a new cell comes into the picture. Just like skin cells, for example, in the process of aging, we have wrinkles because the wrinkly skin are the indicated aging of what we're going through. When our skin ages and we don't make enough collagen to catch up with new production, it wrinkles up. It's just not as bouncy and it's not well hydrated. So in the rest of our bodies and in our organs, the same thing is happening. Basically, these cells would get stagnant and kind of complacent, and it doesn't operate the way it does. It doesn't metabolize the same calories as it used to be. And sometimes you need a jump start. And these types of ingredients, like the phytochemicals and the vitamins and nutrients from this kit, could actually wake up these cells and also wake up the battery life of the cells. And so a lot of times the clinical symptoms of having your cellular rejuvenation activated is boost of energy, and is also what we call like euphoria and feeling of like, I feel really good today. But it's not like a caffeinated high. It's not like it's gonna keep you up at night, but people do feel the effects of dropping 8 pounds of water weight, because now you have less stress on the whole makeup of everything else that's happening in your body. And it's called cellular recycling too. You got cells that's holding on a lot of toxic waste, and it's basically being forced to let go of all these things, and you end up basically depleting through urine, sweat, and of course, poop or feces. There are more professional way to say poop. And some of the other things that it does is multi-organ health benefits, which basically we do it often enough. It actually does. There are clinical data that shows that there are long-term health benefits, which means longevity, feeling healthier. And like Colleen said, look, we all love to live a long life, but if it's a long, unhealthy life, that's a whole different problem, right? So make sure you're doing everything you can. Now, some of the common questions out in the field would be, well, how many times should I be doing this? I mean, it doesn't sound like you want to put yourself on a cleanse or a fast for too long in duration, and that's absolutely right. Because remember, you start losing muscle mass at day 7 if you don't feed your body enough amino acids. And these kits, they're all very restricted when it comes to macronutrients. So there's only like 500 calories per day, and the grams of protein is like 20 grams of protein at most from plant proteins. And so the macros are not there to help you sustain for a very long time, but it's very strategic. It's very meaningful. You do it for 5 days, jumpstart your body, and you continue on to a high protein regimen like at Lindora or any other regimen that gives you all the macros, this is a great way for transition. By recommendation, you can do these types of kits 3 to 5 times a year without the potential loss of muscle mass, because you don't want to kill your metabolism. And every time you do one of these kits, you could potentially lose 4 to 9 pounds. I know some of the men that have done this kit have lost 12 to 15 pounds. So remember, everyone's different. So don't ever compete with your husband when you do these cleanse kits, because Colleen did, and she got really bummed about that. I warned her. Optimizing hydration status. Guess what? When you clean out all the toxins from your cells would then take in things that are meaningful, like water and hydration. So this is why some people feel this euphoric high and this burst of energy once they do these cleanse, because all of a sudden the body is well hydrated. And of course, the great thing about these kits are you can buy online, retail cost. I believe they're like $190 or $200, right? But at Lindora, because you're a member, because of the perk of combining programs and service offering, we usually sell it at a very discounted price as well. So something to think about. And of course, the potential longevity and behavioral change. These are two real huge components when it comes to one who wants to lose a lot of weight. You should think about these things. These are important things when it comes to weight management. So you can't just go and do a fad diet, lose a bunch of weight and call it a day. You truly have to think about what else are you doing in the long run, in a safe environment, or a regimen that has a lot of science behind it that actually helps you maintain your metabolism. So truly something to think about. And I'm going to wrap this whole talk up with another equation, not an equation. It's just an additive, objective data on what we're talking about when you start a cleanse, followed by a 10-week weight loss program. And if you choose to go on some medication as well to control appetite and or hunger and cravings, you could actually potentially lose a little bit more. This is a very, very aggressive estimate of how many pounds you can lose in 75 days if you were to follow this program for the summer. For example, let's just say you activate tomorrow, and 75 days from now, if you did everything, a cleanse, a weight loss program, and maybe add a little medications to the mix, we're talking about 26 to 41 pounds. And I'm not making this up. These are actually internal data from Lindora. And so something to think about, something to chew on for the summer. And I also want to make you aware that, like I said, nothing is curative. You can't just do things for 3 months either. If you can start here and use it as a baseline, perhaps you can sustain this for the rest of the year and actually lose way more and sustain and maintain weight loss, which to me is the most important thing when it comes to healthy weight loss regimens. So with that, I am pretty much done. I do want to, yay, I didn't go over this time. I want to at least leave it for our audience to ask questions. I think Colleen would probably want to share some of her personal experience as well, because she has done all this. And so hopefully I can answer some questions looking into the chat as well. Or Monica, do we have anyone in chat asking any questions?
Yeah, Chris asked how expensive the Prolon program is, which you touched on already, and she asked if somebody can do the program before starting the 10-week Lindora program.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We, at first our struggle was, how do you incorporate a cleanse with weight loss and not give the wrong impression that you should just use the cleanse? And the fact is, the cleanse itself, it speaks for itself, because you look at the nutrition information on the back and all the macros and micros, you just can't sustain this for more than 5 days, and truly not recommended. So our medical providers at Lindora would teach you that this is how you're going to do it. And if you are going to do it, a lot of people do initiate the 5-day cleanse followed by the 10-week weight loss.
And then Lisa asked, what is a typical day of the cleanse? What is in the box?
Oh, she really
I'll take it. I'll take it, Amy. Since listen, the first thing I would tell you guys is mindset matters when you're going to start doing this. The first time that I did the Prolon 5-day cleanse or 5-day fast, I only made it through the first 3 days. I didn't make it to day 4 and to day 5. And I was so disappointed with myself. So mindset really matters. Now I'm doing a 5-day Prolon fast, and I'm doing it every quarter. So I'm doing it 4 times a year. The second time, no problem. I got through all 5 days, and now it's just rinse and repeat for me. In each box for each day, and it's funny because I would set it up on like, my counter and on my island. There's a soup, there's a cracker, there's a tea, there's a little package of olives. There might be like a very small dark chocolate wafer. And it's just something that you have, 3 to 5 times a day that you're actually putting something in your mouth, which adds to satiety, if you will. But each box is a little bit different. I happen to love the tomato basil soup. I'm not a huge fan of, I call it the green soup. It's like a pea soup, but they give you a couple of extras. So if you don't like something on any given day, you have an alternative to switch it out. There's a lot of questions around how can I get a discount on it that Dr. Lee mentioned. If you are an active Lindora member, with your membership, based on your level of membership, you can either get a 10 or a 15% discount. Our unlimited members get a 15% discount. Our wellness and our plus members get a 10% discount on our product lines. If you can't eat olives, I saw that just flash on my screen. You can just skip having those in the process. I don't really love dark chocolate. I just don't eat that wafer on the day where it's in my kit for that day. And then there's a lot of questions about pricing on it. I should know this off the top of my head, but I think our out the door pricing on a Lindora 5-day fast is $190 or $199. Monica, I don't know if you have that information easily accessible.
Yes, it's $190.
Perfect, $190. If you're a member, you can get either a 10 or a 15% discount based on your level of membership. And just remember, during those days, you're really not eating anything else, so you don't have any other food expense. I really started it because I wanted to drop a couple of stubborn pounds, and I in fact did. But what I can tell you is that my mental acuity and my mental clarity by the time I hit about day 3 is so much higher. I feel energized. And for me, some of the clinical data shows that as you're doing this cellular turnover, you're reducing your risk of disease. And that's also a really important part for me because I have a pretty strong family history of cancer in my family. So I know that by doing this, I'm doing something in a small way to help support me. And from a lifestyle perspective, maybe not getting some of that disease state that exists in my genealogy.
We have another question from Katrina. She says, what about medication for appetite suppressant? How do we access medication during fast?
Oh yeah, it's actually built into our protocol at Lindora because we're medically supervised, meaning you are being cleared by a doctor or a mid-level or a nurse practitioner. So we all have prescribing authority, but that's also part of practicing obesity medicine or weight loss medicine. We do believe that medication plays a huge important role when it comes to weight management because the fact is, we treat this as a condition state. It's a long-term condition at which your brain is being controlled by all the workings of all the cells and organs in your body that may have been imbalanced. So with medication, what happens is medication a lot of times serves as a way to balance out some of the noise that we deal with on a daily basis when it comes to cravings, desires, urges. There are days when I can stare at a bowl of French fries and have no reaction, don't want it. But there are days usually relating to stress when I have to go find that basket of French fries and I would devour it. Those are the abnormal behavior that a lot of our clients deal with on a daily basis. If you act out every behavior that you feel, you would end up getting yourself in trouble. And the medication piece definitely plays a huge role in controlling that. Currently we do prescribe at Lindora all the FDA approved medications as well as offering compound options as well because of the national shortage of the branded medication known as Wegovy and Zepbound. So we are the leader in the practice of obesity medicine. I am triple board certified as well. So all the protocols that we have approved and revised throughout the many years have been basically compliant to guidelines, and we practice, that's all we practice. We are a specialty clinic. We also partner up with a lot of primary care along, in our medical community in each of our clinics. And we do end up seeing a lot of clients that are referred to us by the primary care as well.
We had a question around if I experienced any stomach issues or any weird body smells because I was releasing toxins, etc. I really didn't. Amy, I don't know if you've had any personal experience that's different, but no, I didn't have any gastro issues at all. As a matter of fact, I didn't have any gastro issues. And, I drank a lot of water on these days as well. So I was urinating frequently, but just my normal bodily functions occurred without any really adverse scenarios, if you will.
Yeah, and I think part of the cleanse, they do recommend a lot of hydration as well. So you're going to end up drinking a lot more water. It comes with little tea packs in the kit to encourage more fluid intake too. And so you will start shedding a lot of water, and you'll notice it in the first couple of days that you're just running to the toilet like consistently. And then the more water you put in, you would think like, well, then I'm gonna just keep all the water in my system. But that's what happens when you're on the kit. Your body becomes more efficient in the cellular function of what its response is. You'll end up peeing a lot of water throughout those 5 days because you're basically going through a detox. And no, I didn't smell. I think I smelled great those 5 days.
So one other thing that I would say is, like, if you have a buddy or a husband or a significant other or a friend, there is sort of a camaraderie in doing this with somebody else. If you're having a moment of weakness and you're with somebody who's doing it and they're super strong and mentally stable on staying on their cleanse or their fast, it makes you want to do it at the same time and to stay consistent with them. And as Amy said, if you're doing it with a husband or a some man in your life, brother, whatever, uncle, don't compare your weight loss, because those damn men with their testosterone, they lose it faster. That's all I have to say.
I don't know, maybe this could be a great Father's Day present. Like, guess what? We're doing this together. I am giving you the gift of health.
Amy, Chris is saying that her understanding is that compound ingredients are not the same formula that the FDA approved. Concerned about additional ingredients that are added, particularly for, I think it's health reasons. It could be heart reasons, heart or heart health reasons. Would you like to maybe take that one?
Great question. This could have been another talk in itself, but quick answer is compound products by definition has to be a little bit different compared to brand name. That's by definition, because if they're the same exact molecule and product, then then obviously it breaks, it at least conflicts with the rules of compounding. And so a lot of times compound pharmacies would get the active ingredient, same source from whoever it is, and then they reformulate it and they add additional things to it, meaning a little B12 or B6 or whatever else that makes it a little bit different. So they can label it as a compounded product. And correct, it's not FDA approved because of the fact that this is what a compounded product is. In our company, we work with vitamins, hormone replacement, and now GLP-1s, all compounded, but we also work with some of the most renowned companies in the nation. So I don't pick the little mom and pop compound companies to partner with. I work with people with all the paperwork, with the birth certificate, with all the NDC numbers and identifier, almost like a social security number for the active ingredient. And so that's what we provide. And that's our service offering at Lindora. Because of the large volume of clients that we deal with, we can't afford to do anything wrong. So hopefully that answers some of your questions.
Yeah, and I would just say Dr. Lee on the medical side and then me on the business side, we take our supply chain and the purity of the products that we're giving to our clients and to our patients so seriously that we've spent a tremendous amount of time vetting out and ensuring that we're only working with the best of the best, and that we can 100% definitively stand by the quality, the efficacy, and the purity of the products that we sell and that we recommend to our clients. So thank you.
All right, we are at our end of the hour. So if there were any questions, here's my email. I always get like 2 or 3 questions after the talk. So utilize my email. You can ask me anything about Lindora, nutrition, anything. And of course, stay tuned for more information for our next month's webinar, and we'll probably cover another fun topic as well. So see you guys next time, and have a great day.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.